Chapter 7. Errand in the City. 3 days after the noble's visit, Hadrick handed Tom a folded scrap of parchment. "Take this to the guard's station," he said gruffly. "Captain's clerk is expecting it. It's about the bandits, fresh tracks east of the ridge." Tom wiped his hands on his trousers and took the message. "Don't dawdle," Hadrick added. "And don't get into fights." Tom allowed a faint smirk. "I won't." Liz, who was stacking empty crates nearby, called out, "If Dirk bothers you, trip him." Hadrick shot her a look. She grinned unapologetically. Tom tucked the message into his tunic and stepped out into the street. The main guard station was in the city centre, 10 minutes at walking pace, longer if the market was busy. The morning was bright and crisp. Market stalls were already bustling, vendors shouting prices over the hum of conversation. A baker's boy hurried past with a basket of fresh loaves. A chicken squawked, trying to get away from underfoot. A scent of fresh bread lingered in his wake. Tom kept his head level and his eyes alert, moving along the busier side of the street, where he would be harder to notice. He went up the main cobblestone-lined thoroughfare running from the southern gate past the market to the city keep, where the city captains held office. He had grown used to scanning faces, habit born long before Greyhaven. The riders had taken rooms somewhere in the city. He had not seen their horses in Hadrick's stable. They must be lodged nearer the keep. Tom passed a shouted argument from upper-story windows. As Tom reached the edge of the market square, he saw him, the noble. He stood near a cloth merchant's stall, speaking with a pair of guards. Even in simpler attire than the day he'd questioned Tom, he was unmistakable, the way he held himself, the way others shifted slightly around him without realizing it. Tom slowed instinctively. The noble said something brief to the guards and walked toward the northern side of the square, where a guildhall stood. He should continue to the guard station. That was the task. But something tugged at him. If the man was searching still, if he remained suspicious, Tom needed to know more. He adjusted his path subtly, slipping into the flow of foot traffic behind the noble at a careful distance. The noble moved with unhurried confidence, cutting across the square and into a busier lane lined with spice merchants and apothecaries. Tom ducked behind 2 women arguing over fabric, then edged along the wall of a cooper's shop. The noble did not look back. Tom followed through the lane and into a narrow street where laundry hung overhead, billowing in the wind. Children darted between doorways. A fishmonger cursed loudly at a stray dog. The noble turned left. Tom quickened his pace, heart pounding. He rounded the corner and nearly collided with a cluster of dockworkers hauling a crate. He stumbled aside, muttering an apology, craning his neck. The noble was gone. The street ahead branched into 3 narrow alleys, each thick with moving bodies. Tom scanned desperately. Dark cloak, straight posture, military bearing. Nothing. He stepped into the first alley, pushing through a knot of men arguing over dice. No sign. The second was lined with cobblers and tanners, the air thick with sharp scent. A stooped old woman shuffled past him. No noble. The third alley emptied into a courtyard crowded with laundry lines and stacked barrels. Empty. Tom's shoulders dropped. He had lost him. Had the noble noticed? Tom forced himself to breathe. He still had Hadrick's message, and the guard station lay 2 streets over, near the base of the keep. He straightened and made his way back toward the main thoroughfare, merging with a group of traders heading north. The streets grew wider as he'd approached the administrative quarter. Buildings here were sturdier, made more out of stone than timber. The river chapel's bell tolled the late morning hour. Tom turned down a quieter lane leading directly to the guard station. The building was solid, rectangular, with narrow windows and a heavy oak door reinforced with iron bands. A pair of guards stood outside, spears resting casually but eyes alert. Tom rounded the corner toward the entrance and stopped short. The noble stood in the shadow of the guard station wall, as if he had been waiting. Tom's breath hitched. The man's gaze met his instantly. "So," the noble said mildly, pushing off the wall. "Why did you follow me?" "I have a message for the captain's clerk." Tom swallowed. The noble's eyes flicked to Tom's tunic, then his pants, then back to his face. "Sure, you do." A faint smile touched the noble's lips. The guards at the station door watched with mild curiosity but did not intervene. The noble's bearing likely marked him as someone of authority. "Tell me," the noble continued, stepping closer, "have you remembered anything since we last spoke?" No, my lord. Tom shook his head. The noble studied him again, closer now. Tom could see faint lines at the corners of his eyes, marks of someone accustomed to life on the road. You are certain? The man pressed. I was hiding, Tom said quietly. I didn't see much. The noble's gaze sharpened. You are an observant boy, he said. More so than you pretend. Tom clenched his jaw and held his arms steady at his sides. Silence stretched. The noble slowly stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you are in possession of something that does not belong to you, he said softly, it would be wise to surrender it now. I can be merciful. I don't have anything, said Tom, raising his hands. The noble's hand shot out suddenly, fingers aiming for Tom's collar, perhaps to seize him, perhaps to search him. Tom reacted on instinct. He twisted sharply, ducking under the man's arm. The noble's fingers brushed the fabric, but caught nothing. Tom darted sideways, slipping between two startled passers-by and sprinting the few steps to the guard station door. Message for the captain, he blurted, thrusting the parchment toward the nearest guard. The guard blinked, then took it automatically, confused for a second. The noble grabbed Tom's collar and pushed him against the wall of the guard station. What are you hiding? Where is my ring? Alerted by noise, the guard captain emerged from the station, took the parchment and studied it, ignoring the commotion. Speak. Tom was trembling with fear. A boy in Blackmore told me that he knew who found the ring. Was that you? A boy in Blackmore. Pete. Talking. Still alive. The information landed between his shoulders. He wanted to sigh in relief, but forced his face to stay where it was. My lord, I know nothing about any ring. The man's gaze did not move from Tom's face. Tom looked with pleading eyes at the guard next to him and the guard captain. The noble followed the boy's gaze as if suddenly realizing that there were witnesses. The guard captain cleared his throat. My lord, he said. He is just a stable boy. If you lost something valuable, the bandits east of the ridge are more likely culprits. He waved the parchment. The noble glared at Tom and finally let him go. He grabbed the message, scanned it, threw it to the ground, and walked away. The guards watched him go. Tom remained where he stood, breathing hard. He picked up the message from the ground and returned it to the guard captain. Tell Hadrick that we'll be looking into this. Tom nodded and left. He retraced his steps through the city. Tom kept to busier streets on the way back, blending into clusters of apprentices and laborers. He slowed next to the baker's stall where the smell of bread was strong enough to be almost comforting. By the time he reached the stable yard, his pulse had steadied. Hadrick looked up from repairing a harness. Message delivered? Yes. No trouble? Tom hesitated a fraction of a second. No. Hadrick grunted approval. You look like you ran, he observed. Just quick, Tom replied. Tom moved to the well. The bucket slipped from his grasp. Slowly letting his breath out, he forced his hands to steady and reached for the bucket again.